Good afternoon and welcome to AAA's Facebook Live Pothole Palooza. My name is David Bennett.
And I'm Michael Calkins.
So today we're going to talk about everything you want to know about potholes. So first thing what I think we need to understand is how are they formed?
All right, let's talk about that. Here's a cross section of your typical roadway, and what happens is cracks will develop in the asphalt pavement. Water seeps through those cracks and begins to deteriorate the underlayment here. When that happens, the weight of the passing cars causes the pavement to break down and break apart, and eventually a pothole forms.
So I think it's a great thing to know is, when it gets cold, I know they happen more frequently because of the change in the temperature from cold to hot, but does it also happen in warm weather climates?
Yeah, well, what happens in cold climates is when that water gets underneath the pavement, it freezes, and when water freezes, it expands, and that just helps speed up the process of pothole formation. But that's not necessary for potholes. They do have them in the Southwest,
okay,
just much less frequently than in the Northeast.
That makes sense. Again, thank you for joining us for Pothole Palooza. My name is David Bennett. Today with me is Michael Calkins. So we now understand how they're formed, but what do we need to do to ensure that our car is prepared to encounter one? Because let's face it, we know we want to avoid it, but we know we're probably going to hit it. So how can we make sure that the vehicle or our car is in good shape and when that occurs?
Well, the first thing is you want to keep up to date on your routine maintenance. Take your car to a local AAA approved auto repair facility, have the regular maintenance done.
Right.
But for pothole protection, it's really critical that you keep your tires inflated to the proper pressure, because the tires are your first line of defense against potholes.
Right, and I think that's a great point. And what you want to do is you want to go ahead and take a look at the door jamb, inside the door jamb of the front door, to look at the manufacturer's recommended pressure, which is listed inside that door jamb, as I mentioned, instead of going what's off on the tire, on the sidewall of the tire. As we go through this today, if you have any questions, please put them in our comment section, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. If we don't get a chance to answer them on camera, we'll then get to them a little bit later today. Also, if you're looking for an approved auto repair facility, please visit AAA.com/auto repair. So we know that it's properly maintained, and we have good tire pressure. What's something else that's very key that most people forget when maintaining their vehicle to ensure that they can basically see the pothole?
Yeah, well, when you think about when potholes form, it's in the winter, and in the winter we have much fewer daylight hours.
Okay.
You're doing a lot of driving with your headlights on. If you can't see a pothole, you can't avoid it, so you need to make sure your headlights are in good condition and that they're properly aimed and that everything's working.
I think that's a great point. Is you're seeing more and more of these headlights that are getting cloudy, so you want to make sure that you have good visibility in them. It's easy. You can easily clean them yourselves. We do have a great article about that on our repair subfolder at AAA.com/auto repair, along with some other good content. So now we know that the vehicle is properly maintained. We got good tire pressure. The headlights are clean. We can see it. The vehicle is properly maintained. Now we're getting ready. The car's good. What are we going to do now as we're approaching it?
All right. Well, when you're driving down the road and you know it's a season when there are potholes, you need to stay alert and watch for those potholes. But one thing that some people like to do, and give a little precaution here, is try and avoid those puddles that are next to the curb.
Right.
As much fun as it is to spray water all over everything, if there's a hidden pothole in that puddle,
right,
you could end up with a blown tire or a bent rim or a costly repair.
I think that's a great point, especially as people who do love to just kind of watch that water shoot up on the side by running through a hole or through a puddle. You just never know what can be underneath there. So be very careful of that. But I think that's another thing is as you come upon that pothole or that puddle of water, should I slam on my brakes? What should I do as I approach that?
Yeah. Anytime you're approaching a pothole, you have a couple different options on how you can avoid vehicle damage. The first one is to steer around it. Now, of course, you want to check your mirrors, make sure it's safe to do so. If it's not possible to steer around it, you're going to want to slow your vehicle as much as possible.
Okay.
Check your rearview mirror to make sure no one's tailgating you, then slow down, hit your brakes, but just before you get to the pothole, release the brake pedal so the suspension is free to flex as it normally does as the wheel rolls through the pothole.
I think that's a huge point that we got to continue to make, is you want to make sure that you release your brake pedal and allow the car to roll through it instead of just hitting it. Because let me tell you, I've hit a couple of those very hard, sometimes hard enough where I had to apologize to my car. So, and that's because I probably just slammed on the brakes. So allow it to run through. You will not cause as much damage.
Absolutely.
As we go through this again, we're taking questions. So if you have any questions, please put those in the comments section. Again, we have some great information on our website at AAA.com/auto repair. So we know that you want to avoid it. You may hit it. You got to slide through it. So what's some of the damage that could occur if we do in fact hit that pothole rather abruptly?
Well, there are a number of things that can occur, from not too bad to really bad.
Okay.
On the low end of the scale, you might just knock some balance weights off your wheel,
okay,
which will result in a vibration afterwards.
So the big thing that you need to watch out there for is, do you feel a difference in driving the vehicle after you've encountered that pothole? You've hit it pretty hard, or maybe not even that hard, but all of a sudden you start driving the vehicle and you feel a little bit of vibration.
A shake or a shimmy.
Okay, shake, shimmy, vibration, however you want to describe it, but that is your first indication that there's potentially some damage, right?
Yes. Of course, then we got to move up the notch a level.
Okay.
If you make a hard impact with a pothole, several bad things can happen.
Okay.
You could knock your tire off the rim,
right,
which will cause an immediate flat, or even worse, you can hit it so hard that your tire gets cut, as this tire has become cut, at which point this tire basically is worthless and needs to be replaced.
right.
Even worse, this rim here may be difficult to see, but it is bent and actually cracked, which means this wheel has effectively been destroyed, so you're going to have to replace it in addition to the tire.
I think that's a great point. So, before we get on to another point on that, is we do have a question that came in, is when you do hit a pothole, could your vehicle go out of alignment?
Absolutely. You can bend suspension components and put it out of alignment. Even if you don't do wheel damage, if the car pulls to one direction or the other, you need to take it into an approved auto repair facility,
right,
have the alignment checked. And an important consideration on modern cars that have advanced driver assistance systems is that in addition to the alignment, you're going to have the sensors calibrated for that system, which can add hundreds of dollars to the repair cost.
I think that's a great point that a lot of people are not realizing with some of the newer technology. But back to here, all of a sudden we know that we have a flat tire. This one, as Mike indicated, cannot be repaired. So now what you have to do is you have to install a spare tire. But I think a lot of people forget that some of the options on their vehicle no longer include a spare tire. There's about 27% of the vehicles that are purchased today that do not have a spare tire.
That's right. They come with an inflator kit and some liquid tire sealant, which is great if you have a nail in the tire, but totally ineffective for a cut sidewall like this.
Yeah, so I think you need to be aware of what options you have and and whether or not you do have a spare tire. You can easily look at the owner's manual, or you can just simply walk back to the back of the vehicle, open up the trunk or the area in the storage area to see if you do have a spare tire or not.
Of course, the good news is if you don't have a spare tire and you have a cut tire, you can still have a AAA membership and we'll come help you out.
I think that's very important. At any point, the first thing to do is pull off the side of the road, make sure you're in a safe location. At that point, then you can go ahead and give us a call at 1-800-AAA-HELP. Another question that just came in is, what season are potholes the worst? Is it spring, fall, is it dead of winter?
It's definitely springtime, because in the fall, things get cold, the roads are still in relatively good shape from summertime, but by the time spring rolls around, cracks have formed, you're starting to go through that thaw-freeze cycle.
Right.
It'll be cold at night, warm in the daytime. So springtime is definitely pothole season, and we're rapidly approaching that now.
Yeah, so you're starting to see those more and more form. I think another thing, if we take a look at this rim, here's one that was really damaged, and again, you see a chunk that was taken out right in here. More than likely, this isn't going to be repaired, but some rims can be repaired, but you just got to make sure that they're doing it properly, and then as well as they properly seal the bead of the tire to ensure that there's no leak right there. Exactly. So this is where you get into the expense, right? Is when you get into the rim.
Yeah, once you get into the tire and the rim, a tire alone can cost upwards anywhere from $200 to $500 or more.
Right.
Wheels, alloy wheels like this, usually are in the hundreds of dollars range.
Right.
So costs can be quite significant in repairing pothole damage.
Yeah, and I think the one thing to think about is those cars that have really nice low profile tires, they look great, but one of the issues could be that they're more susceptible to actually getting some damage if you hit a pothole, right?
Yeah, they absolutely are. The low profile tires are much more susceptible, which, as we talked about earlier, makes it that much more important that you keep them properly inflated.
Okay. Again, my name's David Bennett. With me today is Mike Calkins. If you have any questions, please let us know. We also have a lot of information on our website at AAA.com/auto repair. So, you know, as we think about this and we're going through and thinking about our damage, is there something else that we need to think about as we're dealing with potholes? Is there a way to notify somebody that there are potholes? What's a good way? If I hit one or I see them often, should I just call my local city government office?
Yeah, that's an excellent point, David. Most municipalities have a phone hotline or an internet site, and some even have apps that use the GPS functionality of your phone to identify pothole locations. So maybe you hit it this time, but maybe you can prevent someone else from suffering that fate in the future.
Okay. So again, I think all good information, I think, is a recap. We want to make sure that the vehicle is properly maintained. We have good tire pressure. The lighting system is good. Remember to release the brakes, allow your car and the momentum to run through that pothole. If you have any, and if you do hit it, you need the vehicle aligned. A good place to go is AAA approved auto repair. You can find those locations at AAA.com/auto repair website. Any other thoughts that you can think of, Mike, that you want to leave our guests with?
No, I think we've covered most of the points. Again, AAA research has found that the average cost to repair pothole damage is around $300.
Okay.
But like we mentioned, it could be as little as $15 to rebalance a tire,
right,
or in excess of $1,000 to replace a tire and a wheel, do an alignment, and any other work that might be necessary.
So the big thing is to be diligent about it and make sure that you are driving forward and you're looking ahead as you're driving to avoid these potholes, to avoid any damage and some potentially very costly repairs. So we thank you today. If you would like to have us cover any other topics in the future, please leave those in the comments. For AAA, my name's David, this is Mike. We thank you for joining us today, and drive safe.
Thank you.